Real quick, I got a couple of comments in some recent videos about how casual I look in the morning when I record these financial update videos, and I think that's fair. But I just want to sort of kind of let you know about my daily routine that kind of gets me to this point to have this conversation with you. I pretty much wake up, I don't know, call it 6:15, no alarm clock, just get up. I go get a couple of cups of coffee, read the financial news, take notes, and then I come talk to you. So I am not really about going to get dressed up before I do one of these. So I apologize if my casual dress or attire distracts you. But anyways, on to real business of the day. So first and foremost, we got to talk about the trade war. Uh, I've been on a pretty good track record. I think you can go back and listen to the financial update from Friday, where I was indicating, the trade deal, the two parties wanted it, kind of outlined it as, I didn't use the word vague, because frankly, my vocabulary is not that great. But I was sort of indicating that it didn't really look to have a lot of meat on the bone. And, maybe it was more headline grabbing for both sides than not. So it looks like the market has realized it 2 or 3 days later. They're now saying that, hey, this is a pretty vague deal. China, frankly, wants one more round of discussions. And there is talk about the December tariffs still being in effect and going up. So lots of stuff to do. It hasn't fallen apart. That's good news, right? Nobody's come out and from either side and left the negotiating table. So it's all pretty good news. So on that topic, I think we got news Sunday. At least I saw it Sunday. It may have come out Saturday. Just how bad China imports and exports are. Um, just going through the numbers real quick. Imports were down 8.5%, which just sounds horrible, right? Because a lot of what they need is food. Um, that's bad. And even worse, the expectation was 5.2. So imports were down, if you just do the math quickly, 3.3%, which is, again, just doing math in my head, greater than 50% higher than expectations. That's meaningful. That's really, really meaningful. And then exports. They were down also. They expected a 3% decline, but they were actually down 3.2. So, um, you know, China's hurting. I think last week I was pretty convinced both sides want to win, right? They want to get this thing, moving in a direction. And, I feel that way even more now. I think both sides want to get it done. If China wants one more meeting, I don't know why that doesn't happen. I think everybody wants to see the two presidents sitting in a room signing an agreement. And I think that's going to happen. Um, I don't know how long it would take to make that happen, but boy, I think it'd be great if that's something done on national TV or something Friday. Maybe not like breaking news kind of stuff, but I don't know, CNBC or I don't know, one of those political networks, the two presidents signing a trade agreement. I think that would send a great message to both countries. And who doesn't need a little good news now and again? Since I'm on page 2 of my notes, I'll just hit the other topic that I have here. Looks like WeWork is in the news, and boy, did we nail that one. I don't know, 8, 10 weeks ago when we were talking about it. Frankly, Sam Zell nailed it, right? His quote about this is a business model that's been tried, I think it was since 1958, and it hasn't worked, right? Rent big space, lease big space for a long time, and then rent out little space. He says as soon as an economic cycle comes, it blows up. He's right. They're closing a private school that they funded or they run, which I thought was interesting. That's interesting, right? Their own private school. Go figure. And then they're also talking about cutting 1/3 of their employees, right? And the reason I want to talk about this one is that last statement, cutting 1/3 of your employees. Just think about where they were 90 days ago. Now, maybe it's 100 days ago. The employees were excited. Most of them were probably counting their money, right? They were at that point weeks away from going public, weeks away from a liquidity event. They had probably been to open houses and car lots and all of that. and it crumbled. It didn't make it. Like tripped at the finish line and couldn't make it. And I wanted to bring that up because again, a lot of the wealth in the Silicon Valley comes from these liquidity events, and we go through these cycles. The one that's most similar to this, I think, is like 2000, where anybody with a .com was getting rewarded handsomely for what we were calling at the day eyeball counts, right? The more people that see it, and there was no path to profitability. And then eventually it turned and crushed a lot of people, myself included. It's happening again, and it takes a while to unravel. So be careful. Back to the day, sort of page one of my notes. Um, so let's see, China. Oh, Marc Benioff. Again, he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times, I believe, and basically came out and said billionaires should pay more taxes. Awesome. Billionaires should pay more taxes, uh, which was hard to disagree with. But I loved how he kind of painted that as being used to fix a lot of the social issues, climate control, and things of that nature. So Marc Benioff continues to be I don't know, a pillar of goodness, if you will, at least by what I have read. I've never met the man, but he seems to be leaning the right direction. His heart's in the right place, and much respect for him. And then the last conversation of the day are the millennials. I actually talked about an article about the millennials, I think it was Thursday, that was blaming them for our economy being slow. The gist of that article is they were saving too much. And I was like, good for them, right? You got to remember when the millennials, which if you don't know are adults 21 to 38. I know it's hard to believe that millennials are in their 20s now and 30s, frankly, almost 40. Um, but it is saving is not a bad thing, right? We think about a lot of them were impacted by the Great Recession, which if you just take 10 years away, they were 11 to 28. That hurt, right? I can only imagine. I obviously wasn't old enough for the Great Depression, but there were lots of kids in that similar age that were affected by that their whole lives, right? I told the story in that video about my grandmother still saving aluminum foil. Um, that's just what they did, right? They saved every penny they could. So good for them. This article today talks about millennials being a force for, I don't know, economic good because they are starting to buy homes. And the story goes when the millennials decide to buy homes, because they're almost the largest population of living adults at this point, they will pass the baby boomers soon. Is when they start buying homes instead of iPhones, they are going to get the economy going because for every dollar deposit, they can lend $10 to the banks, fractional lending. So they are about to be a positive force for the economy as they switch up and move into more concrete, insignificant purchases that require lending and the like. So, again, a good day. It seems like we're going. It seems like it felt like we had a month of just I don't know if I want to call it bad news, but stressful news. And it seems like we've had 3 or 4 good days going forward. So my hope is that continues. Um, I still think, again, this channel is about figuring out the consumer and figuring out the cost of capital. I still stand by my new call of a quarter rate cut on the 30th of October by the Fed. And then I still think the consumers are getting nervous as October, I think, is going to prove to be a very choppy month for stocks. All right, everybody, have a great day. Take care. Bye.